Speaker, and thank the government for agreeing to give opposition MPs an opportunity to respond on this pressing matter. Thank the Minister for his remarks. The chemical attacks which occurred this week in northern Syria were nothing short of horrific. The images of suffocating and paralyzed children have shocked all Canadians. The story of one man who lost 25 members of his family, including his twin baby girls, is something I will never forget. Officials from the United States, Britain, and Israel, as well as numerous witnesses on the ground, have confirmed that it was the Syrian government and its fighter jets which deployed a deadly nerve toxin on the civilian population. This is a crime against humanity, and it must not go unpunished. Nous ne pouvons pas laisser des crimes de cette ampleur rester impunis. Le président syrien Bachar al-Assad doit être tenu responsable. À cette fin, le Parti conservateur soutient fermement les efforts déployés par les États-Unis pour empêcher les forces militaires de la Syrie de lancer d'autres attaques aux armes chimiques. La communauté mondiale ne peut pas rester sans rien faire lorsque des neurotoxines mortelles sont lancées sur d'innocents civils. We cannot allow crimes of this scale to go unpunished. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad must be held accountable. To that end, the Conservative Party of Canada strongly supports the United States' actions to prevent Syria's military from launching further chemical weapons attacks. The global community cannot sit by idly while deadly nerve toxins are unleashed on innocent civilians. It must be said that the United Nations Security Council has been completely ineffective in dealing with this developing crisis. Part of the problem has been that the Russian Federation has deployed repeatedly its veto power at the UN Security Council, preventing actions to hold this Assad regime accountable. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister has been saying one thing yesterday and something completely different today. Just yesterday, the Prime Minister said in New York that, quote, there were continuing questions about who is responsible for these attacks, end quote. He also said the solution was for the Security Council to pass a resolution that would allow an investigation to, quote, determine who is responsible. That, Mr. Speaker, after the whole world knew precisely who was responsible for these crimes.
Part of the alt-right.
Less than 12 hours later, however, the Prime Minister changed his position. He now says he fully supports the U.S. unilateral missile strikes against the Assad regime. Alors, quelle est la position du gouvernement du Canada? Il semble qu'elle ne cesse de changer. C'est exactement ce type d'attitude de laisser aller que le Parti conservateur rejette complètement. De plus, jusqu'à présent, le Premier ministre a pris peu de mesures concrètes pour tenir le gouvernement syrien responsable, ni de tenir responsable le gouvernement de Russie qui appuie Bachar al-Assad. So just what is the position of the Government of Canada? It seems to change with the wind. That is exactly the type of go-along to get-along thinking that the Conservative Party wholeheartedly rejects. In addition, to date, the Prime Minister has done little to hold the Russian back.
Just want to remind the honourable member that normally what happens is a response to a minister's statement is about the same amount of time that the minister took. Minister took about 1 minute, and we're already at the 4-minute mark, actually more than 4 minutes. So I just want to remind the honourable member, if you can wrap it up, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
With respect, Mr. Speaker, I believe this is a matter of importance that would justify.
Honourable member for York Simcoe.
Very briefly on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, your comments are quite right. However, the foundation for the principle that responses are to match in time the length of time of the original minister's statement also rests on a foundation where the government provides to the people who were speaking from the opposition parties a copy of their text in advance so that we may have the capacity to calibrate the response appropriately. While some notes were provided, they were indicated that this was just the sort of topics that were discussed. The actual text was not indicated as such to be the text, and I think that some latitude should be given to the honourable member with regard to the difficult circumstances under which he has had to prepare his response.
That is a good point, and as the honourable member notices, we went to 4 times what the honourable minister had spoken, but I'll let the honourable member wrap up. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, la politique étrangère du Canada doit toujours reposer sur les principes de la liberté, de la
We have a point of order from the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it might be more appropriate if we just ask for the consent. We'd have the consent on the government side to allow the member to continue to contribute to the discussion. But I do believe he should be asking for consent to continue on.
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent from the House to move that motion or to allow the honourable member to speak longer? Yes. Agreed. Honourable member for Carleton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what exactly is the government's position? It seems to change with the wind. It seems that the position is one thing yesterday in New York and the opposite this morning here in Ottawa.
Contrary to the Prime Minister's statements yesterday, the United Nations Security Council has proven itself woefully ineffective when it comes to resolving this dispute. Furthermore, it is unfortunate that the Prime Minister and the Government of Canada have been completely out of the loop when it comes to the actions of our closest ally. Even though the Prime Minister was in New York meeting with the Secretary General of the United Nations just yesterday, there does come a point where action is required, and it's when diplomacy fails time and time again. Monsieur le Président, la politique étrangère du Canada doit toujours reposer sur les principes de la démocratie, la liberté, des droits de la personne et de la primauté du droit. Nous soutenons les actions de nos alliés pour tenir le gouvernement syrien responsable et pressant le Premier ministre de reconnaître et respecter le rôle traditionnel du Canada d'affronter le mal et la tyrannie partout où ils existent. Mr. Speaker, Canada's foreign policy must always be based on the principles of freedom, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. We support the actions of our allies to hold the Syrian government to account and call on our Prime Minister to recognize and respect Canada's traditional role in confronting evil and tyranny wherever it exists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member.